Today, we're going to define business strategy, discuss one of the best simple strategy models, and then briefly explain what competitive advantage is. First, let's take a look at where we get the basic concept of business strategy. Once upon a time, your core business school class used to be called business planning or business policy. I know, total snooze fest, right? So in the 1960s, some business policy scholars said, hey, I wonder what would make us sound cooler at cocktail parties. So they looked at military history. Here's Napoleon planning the pivotal Battle of Austerlitz. And they found a far sexier word to describe comprehensive organizational planning: strategy. And as a word, strategy makes sense. A strategos was an ancient Greek army commander, and that's what we tend to picture when we think of what executives do in a multi-billion-dollar company. And the comparison from, say, a Greek general to Steve Jobs seems pretty natural to us now. The CEO is the leader of the business, in charge of planning and answering that all-important question: how should our company compete in our market? But now, let's actually define business strategy. I mean, everyone knows what business strategy is, right? Sitting around in a meeting, shouting buzzwords. But let's try for something a little more useful. First, what are we referring to when we use the phrase business strategy? There are many ways to apply strategy in a business. For example, at the product level, you have marketing strategy, which applies to how you position your products given the expected moves of your competitors. For example, Old Spice and Axe compete head-to-head and must use marketing and product strategy to maximize their earnings. At the business unit level, firms use business strategy to determine how a company with a cohesive group of product offerings, such as Southwest, Pixar, or Uber, should compete within their industry. Finally, at the corporation level, you have corporate strategy, which is concerned with how large, diversified companies, such as Disney or Amazon, should manage their wide portfolio of businesses. For the purpose of this video series, we're going to focus on the Goldilocks sweet spot right here by focusing on business unit strategy. So what is strategy? You can start to define this after you've answered two critical questions. How should we compete in our market? And what is the best way to deploy our resources to meet our firm's goals? I think Michael Porter's definition of strategy condenses these ideas the best. Strategy is a broad formula for how a business is going to compete, what its goals should be, and what policies will be needed to carry out those goals. With that said, we want to remember that while strategy is planning for the future, all good strategy frameworks are actually dynamic and allow for adaptation over time. Finally, while almost everyone in a company is involved in strategy, creating business strategy is typically thought of from the CEO or business unit executive perspective. And now that we have a basic definition, let's look at one simple model for understanding a strategic ecosystem. It's called the three-circle model, and it comes from Professor Joe Urbany of Notre Dame. I'll use this model and other Venn diagram-based models throughout this series. First comes the customer. Customers have needs that they're willing to pay to solve. This could be something as simple as getting from point A to point B. The customer naturally wants to maximize value based on relevant factors such as speed, cost, or comfort of the transportation offerings. Next comes a company that offers a product meeting some of these needs. In this case, Uber. Uber offers speed and comfort, but it's not necessarily cheap, so the circles only partially overlap here. It could be the case that a company's product offerings completely fulfill a customer's needs. For example, if it's lunchtime and a company offers this burger, I think, oh yeah, and the circles would almost completely overlap for my lunchtime needs. But back to our main model. It's not as simple as having one customer and one company. There are also competitors and their distinct value adds. In this case, think Lyft. So we see that the areas of the circle that uniquely overlap between the customer and one of the companies represent the unique competitive advantages of each of those companies. So here we see that Uber's competitive advantage is between the blue and red circles. Lyft is now between the red and the green. But let's be honest. Uber and Lyft offer a remarkably similar range of services and price points, so their unique product offerings or unique competitive advantages are most likely rather small. So it might be more realistic to show them this way. You kind of break out the microscope in order to see that competitive advantage. This brings us to a critical and related strategy concept, namely diversification. Namely differentiation. Differentiation is the critical element of a firm's strategy. However, simply being different isn't enough. A firm must be different in a way that is both difficult to imitate and also provides value to the consumer in a way that customers truly value. So let's take a new look at the competitive landscape involving differentiated firms. Let's say you want to buy lunch and you've settled on getting a higher quality fast food type burger. You might consider Five Guys or Shake Shack. Well, at first glance, both companies offer burgers, sodas, and fries at a similar price point. The products, though, are actually quite different. Five Guys leads with their fries, the larger size of their burgers, and the unlimited topping choices. And they also have that 1950s pretty cheesy burger joint setting. On the other hand, Shake Shack leads with their hip atmosphere, the shakes, obviously, and their socially responsible messaging. So with all of this said, let's take a stab at defining the core of business strategy. Business strategy is maintaining competitive advantage, and competitive advantage means building the resources and capabilities that create sustained above-average profits in the marketplace. Thus, strategic management is the pursuit and maintenance of competitive advantage. Pretty simple, right? Well, we'll find out if that's true as we progress through this video series. Thanks for watching. Please like and comment below to help give visibility to these short tutorials.